People disappear every day, but not like this. Daniel Holt vanished between two footsteps on a quiet street. He was walking home from work. No rushing, no danger, nothing unusual. Just another ordinary evening. A security camera captured his path. No one ahead, no one behind. Just Daniel and the empty pavement. At frame 214, his outline bends just slightly, as if the air around him shifts, like heat rising in winter. At frame 215, Daniel lifts his right foot for the next step. Everything still looks normal. At frame 216, he fades out. No sound, no reaction, no trail, just an empty frame.
Take a look at this.
Investigators arrived within minutes, but the scene offered nothing. No prints, fibers, footprints, nothing. Thermal scans showed no body heat left behind, as if Daniel's presence was erased instantly. The camera recorded a brief spike of distortion, a ripple of bending light, too organized to be a glitch. Engineers call it refraction. Physicists call it impossible. No law we know can erase a human in one frame. One theory remains. Something opened for a fraction of a second. Not a doorway, more like a tear. If Daniel stepped through that tear, where did he go? And more importantly, could it open again? Security footage caught something impossible. Two men with the same face, at the same moment, in two different places. Ethan Cole was seen leaving work early. Cameras followed his routine steps toward the station. But 5 seconds later, another camera picked him up. Same clothes, same walk, same man. The timestamps were in perfect sync, kept exactly as they were. Two Ethans recorded in the very same second. Facial recognition scored a 100% match. Not a look-alike, not a twin. The system insisted both were Ethan. When questioned, Ethan remembered nothing strange. He swore he never changed platforms. Investigators noticed something else. Objects in the background bent slightly, like the air was folding. Surfaces near Ethan's path reflected passengers incorrectly, like reflections from a different moment. Experts said the effect resembled a localized time lag, something that shouldn't happen outside a laboratory. Frame 312 shows the clearest moment. Ethan passes within 3 meters of himself. And then, without warning, the second Ethan vanishes between frames, gone without a trace. So who was the second Ethan? A glitch in time, a mirrored version of himself, or something far stranger that we still don't understand? Security footage showed a man frozen in place for 47 seconds, while the rest of the world kept moving. Mark Willis was heading home from a late shift. Nothing unusual, nothing strange. A street camera captured him turning the corner at exactly 9:14 p.m. Then, in an instant, Mark stopped, not slowing down, not hesitating, just frozen. For nearly a full minute, the world moved around him, completely unaware he wasn't moving at all. Investigators noticed distortions near his body, like the air was bending out of sync with time. And then he kept walking, without a trace of confusion, without any hint that he ever stopped. Mark said he remembered taking one step, then suddenly being much farther down the street. The footage proved he was frozen for exactly 47 seconds. His watch skipped that time completely. Scientists suggested a temporal slip, where a person falls out of the local time flow, but none agree how it could happen outside a controlled environment.
We must recalculate the accretion
A subtle ripple lingered for hours after the event, as if the moment itself had warped. So, did Mark fall out of time, or did something pull him out? And if it happened once, who else has slipped without ever knowing? For 3 seconds, Jack Miller swore the world around him changed. Street signs, buildings, even the sky. He was just taking his usual walk home. Same road, same lights, same routine. Then a street sign ahead of him blurred, like the letters refused to stay in place. He blinked once, and the world felt wrong. Buildings were angled differently, almost shifted sideways. He heard footsteps, but they didn't match his. They echoed half a second too early. Across the road, a stranger stopped and stared at him, like he recognized Jack from somewhere else. The letters on a storefront changed into a language he'd never seen. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. For a moment, it felt like two versions of his world overlapped, competing for which one was real. Later, the footage confirmed it. Jack vanished from the camera for exactly 3 seconds. He remembered seeing another version of the street, cleaner, brighter, and somehow lonelier. Researchers call this a parallel slip, a moment where two realities brush against each other before separating again. So which world did Jack walk through? And if he slipped into another reality for 3 seconds, how many times have the rest of us slipped without noticing? Security cameras caught a man walking through the mall, but light refused to cast his shadow. No one noticed him until they reviewed the footage. The first witness thought it was a glitch until she saw him on every camera she checked. 3 cameras, 3 angles, and still no shadow. Lighting, exposure, everything was normal, except him. Technicians ran tests. Every object, every person produced a shadow. The only exception was him. His movement showed no microshakes, no natural sway, almost as if he wasn't fully part of the space around him. Dozens saw him. No one noticed what was missing. They all described the same face, but none remembered his footsteps. Even when lights brightened and shadows stretched across the floor, he stayed perfectly absent. Guards tried tracking him. He shifted between cameras faster than walking speed should allow. He passed behind a single pillar. On the other side, only emptiness, lacking any exit or sign of him, simply gone. Frame by frame, analysts found micro-distortions, like reality bent slightly around his body. He was never seen again, but the spot where he vanished still causes sensor anomalies, even months later. So who was the man without a shadow? A glitch in reality? Or something that slipped through unnoticed? What do you think really walked through that mall? Security footage caught something impossible. A man who walked through bright lights without casting even a trace of a shadow, and he looked straight into the camera. The staff thought it was a malfunction, until the image distorted only around him. Angles changed, lighting stayed consistent, but no matter where he stood, his shadow never existed. They overpowered the hallway lights to force a shadow. Everything reacted, except him. His movements were too smooth, like physics didn't apply to his body the same way. Witnesses remembered something odd. Not the missing shadow, but the silence around him. No footsteps, no breath. Lighting enhancements only made the truth clearer. He wasn't just shadowless. His presence bent the space around him. They tried to track him, but he appeared on the next camera before he could have physically reached it.
How is that possible?
He slipped behind a single pillar, and reality glitched. When the frame stabilized, he was gone. Forensic analysts found something worse. A second outline standing behind him. A shape that shouldn't exist. The corridor still behaved strangely. Lights dim when no one is there. Sensors trigger without movement. So who or what was the man without a shadow? A physics anomaly? A dimensional stray? Or something that notices when we start looking for it? The dashcam caught something drivers weren't prepared for. A dog that walked straight through the headlights, but cast no shadow at all. At first, they thought it was just low-quality night footage, until they zoomed in. Under identical lighting, every animal produces a clear shadow, except this one. It paused directly in the beam. Light spread everywhere, except under its paws. Its movement was unnervingly smooth, like each frame was being corrected. The driver said the strangest part wasn't the missing shadow, but the silence. The dog's steps made no sound on gravel. A second camera confirmed it. Different angle, different light, still no shadow. But thermal imaging revealed something terrifying. A tall figure standing behind the dog, invisible in normal video. The shadowless dog wasn't alone, and the figure behind it moved in perfect unison, as if controlling it. Where the dog walked, the environment reacted. Lights dimmed, metal hummed, sensors misfired. It slipped behind a small barrier and vanished in a single frame. So was it really a dog? Projection? A host for the figure behind it? Or something that doesn't belong to our light at all? On a quiet Tuesday night, I walked down the hallway toward my basement and felt something was wrong before I even reached the door. When I dropped my house keys, they didn't just hit the floor. They slid into a thin crack between the boards and disappeared. I knelt down and looked inside the gap. Somehow, the space beneath my floor was far deeper than it should have been, almost like a hollow room. That's when I heard it, my keys, clinking, moving, as if someone was dragging them across the floor from behind the basement door. A shadow passed under the door, slow, deliberate, and it wasn't shaped like any animal I've ever seen. The next morning, my keys were sitting neatly on the table, clean, polished, like someone had returned them and wanted me to know. I stared at them for a long time. Every groove was spotless, every edge shining. They looked newly made. I tore the floor open that afternoon, but what I found underneath wasn't a crawl space. It was something carved out, intentionally. Tiny handprints covered the wooden beams. Not just one or two, dozens of them, pressed into the dust leading toward the far corner. That night, the house felt wrong. Every room was silent, but the air felt like someone had just walked through minutes before I arrived. At midnight, the sound returned. The gentle drag of metal on wood, coming from beneath the floorboards I had already removed. And then a whisper rose from the darkness beneath the house. Soft, close, and it said my name, like it had been waiting.